Whether we like it or not, a lot of us have house rules in Commander, and you may not be thinking of the unwritten, unspoken social contract that you and your friends have had when you power down or power up decks as house rules, but it's the same thing. Like, house rules is just codifying these things that we generally agree make for a more fun Magic the Gathering game. In kitchen table games, this can take the place of not running certain expensive cards. And in Commander games, this can take the place of, well, the bracket system that we all love, right? Nobody's ever had problems with the bracket system. So today's video isn't actually about the bracket system, for once. I'm super happy about that, but let's read what we are looking at right now. Twisted Top Hat says that I have a new Rule 0. Not to poison the well, they say, we have had this problem in our pod that you're probably familiar with. It's the group's general tendency to small bean oneself. Okay, so maybe I need to explain small beaning real quick. So small beaning is when you're sitting over here and, you know, you're not in the dominant position, but you definitely have the ability to do some stuff. You've got a couple of lands here, don't worry. Player 2 over here, they've got a few lands as well. Player 4's over here, player 3's over here. You've got your lands, you're all ready to go. Now you have a combo in your hand, but you haven't played the combo. So when player 2 says, oh, is there any threat I need to be worried about right now? Player 3 and player 4, they don't have much, so they go, I don't know. And you, knowingly having an infinite combo in your hand or some other way to turn the tide, say, I don't know why you're looking at me. I don't have anything out right now. And this can be the case even if you've got a pretty strong board state. Like if you've ramped turn 1, 2, and 3, and now you're here going, hey, I know I've casted a ramp spell on the first 3 turns of the game, but that doesn't mean I'm going to play a turn 8 spell on turn 4 now. I'm not really the threat. Like, that's when you're doing that, you're trying to be the small bean that nobody is going to attack in your game. But all of us, we kind of understand, or at least we should understand, that the player who's the small bean is either not experienced enough with the game to know when they are a threat and therefore can be dangerous, or they're lying. And that's where we get to the rest of the Reddit post. Twisted Top Hat goes on to say, I think this political strategy is fine in moderation, but I've seen it get to the point where some players are genuinely guilt-tripping others into not being targeted. This makes the game harder to win for people unwilling to stoop to that level of small beaning, effectively punishing them for not joining in. It also makes the experience worse for new players who don't have threat assessment skills yet, taking advantage of their skill gap in a disingenuous way. So small beaning doesn't have to just be you sitting here going, I don't know why you're targeting me, I'm not a threat. It can also be the equally insidious emotional blackmail, where you over here have the ability to create a game-ending win, or at least a huge tempo swing, or you've been consistently the threat on the board, and when somebody attacks you, you start, what's the best way to put this? Responding in such a negative way so as to guilt-trip the person to attack you, into not attacking you anymore. I know that that's kind of what the Reddit post said as well, but this is the behavior that I have seen. A player who has very well-built decks and has decks that are very well-tuned and has the money to make these decks incredibly powerful with some limitations. They're playing at the upper echelon of bracket 3 effectively, and you, being that player, you receive most of your fun in this game almost exclusively by winning. It feels like when you don't win, you've wasted the night. If you lose 2 games in a row, you say things like, I don't even know why I came out. I don't even know why I'm playing this game. I don't know why you would do that. But when you're winning, you're having the biggest time of your life. You are ecstatic. This is Magic the Gathering game night, and you are having a thrill. But the absolute nanosecond somebody counters a spell of yours, suddenly the mere idea of interaction has made you respond in such a way that that player who countered your spell is less likely to counter a spell again, because to them, this is just a game, and they don't need to deal with your childish bullshit. It's almost always a sign that that person has something else negative going on in their life, and they've decided to bring that to the card shop when we're all here trying to have a fun time, and instead they decided they get their dopamine from winning, not spending time with their friends, and that makes them upset. So, I don't know. These are experiences I have had personally. Maybe I'm letting a little bit of that leak through. Let's go back to the post. Now, how did they fix this? Well, to fix this, I've started clarifying before games a new policy that I will personally follow. I let the other player politely know that when I perform my personal threat assessment, any small beaning will immediately put somebody to the top of my threat list. No matter the board state, no matter what's happened in the game thus far, if someone tries to convince me or the rest of the players that they are not actually not even the threat or actually not even that powerful, especially compared to some other player, then I will assume they're hiding something strong, and as such, they will become my prime target. This has entirely fixed the problem for us, without me ever having to actually enforce the policy. Any small beaning is met with, "Is that a small bean I smell over there?" And the player immediately stops. Sometimes they'll go so far as to make themselves look more threatening than they truly are to compensate for the slip-up. If your group struggles with this problem, try it out. It worked great in my pod. Edit a small bean to someone who pretends to be harmless to gain an advantage, knowing damn well that isn't the case. So, okay, I think that this is a fantastic strategy. This is a wonderful way to solve the problem of small beaning for people who are doing small beaning, like the strictest definition of that. But it's not going to work very well with other forms of deflection. And I know that's not the point of the post. This is not me trying to undermine that. I think that the post actually has a very good way of dealing with this. I think this is the type of thing that should be reinforced by the entire pod in general in a game of Commander. When somebody starts going, "I've only ramped a couple turns, I'm not that threatening," like, no, absolutely not. So as an example, let's take Ruby Daring Tracker. If I were to be the small bean and I were to say on turn 2, play Ruby, and then on turn 3, as is my want, play Explosive Vegetation, or Map the Frontier, or Ranger's Path, or any of these cards that do the exact same thing, ramping me by 2 cards. You know what that means? That means on turn 4, I'm dropping a Shaya. That means on turn 4, I am dropping a Silverback Elder, an Overlord of the Boiler Brigs, a Kogla and Yadaro. I am knocking you out with a Tyrant's Familiar, a Drakaseth Maw of Flames. All of these are viable turn 4 options for me now, because I ramped early. You had the audacity to play an artifact? Then I guess I'm going to play Kogla Titanate, and not only am I bonking your commander, but I'm also taking this guy and using him to knock out whatever you play in your artifact slot. Soul Ring, gone. Absolutely killed. Thran Dynamo? I don't think so. All of it is going to be completely out by the time I'm done. So, that only happened because I got to ramp a lot. And if I were to say, oh, I haven't done a whole lot, I've only casted Cartographer's Survey and my commander all game, that's a lie. I did that because that's my deck's primary strategy, not because I didn't have anything else I could do. But if after you've learned that Ruby does, well, those things, I decided to then guilt trip you. Every single time I got my Ruby comes out and then on turn 3 I play my ramp spell move, and your response to that, as should be, is to say, oh, hey, Suris is actually getting everything that his deck wants him to do. Maybe we should start kicking his teeth in a little bit. I don't know, just so that we don't lose the game. If my response to that was to start doing emotional blackmail to you and effectively going, hey, why would you do that? I haven't even done anything. Why do you always attack me? Why do I even come out to play? Why do I even play this game with any of you? There's only so many times I could do that before my playgroup would start to get very agitated with me in general. And there's only so long a strategy like that will work before, I don't know, you start to realize that winning your game is not more important than maintaining your friendships. The people around you want to spend time with you. And when you small bean in order to win, we see you as kind of a conniving asshole. Not as somebody who we want to play games with, but as somebody who is more interested in using us as stepping stones so that you can win your game, and not as, you know, an actual friend. That's kind of a problem. That's a huge issue. And it's an issue that I think players have dealt with in Commander for a really long time. And when it turns into that emotional blackmail bit, again, I have to just start asking the question, do you want to play a game with us, or do you want to win? Which one of these is more important to you? And I think the broader thing to do in a lot of play groups when people start doing this behavior, small beaning, deflecting the blame, emotionally blackmailing you whenever you hit them with a piece of removal. They played Soul Ring early and you had the audacity to say, no, I think I'm going to hit that with something. I don't want you doing that. We're aiming Decimate at Soul Ring and your Wild Growth respectively. So that we can set you back a little bit, and you start complaining about mana denial or some shit when you haven't lost any lands. I don't know. I feel like a good conversation for a lot of us to get into when we're dealing with that kind of behavior in a Magic game is to approach the person and ask that very question. Are you here because you want to play games with us, or do you need this win? Is there something about this win in particular that is so nightmarishly important to you that you will take it at any costs? This is why I'm an advocate for doing the table villain thing. I like being the person that everybody at the table needs to be focused on, because guess what? It inadvertently creates better game experiences. 3 people are instead in a cooperative game dealing with me. And as long as my skin is thick enough to handle that, everybody's going to get along just fine. I bring a powerful deck to the table, everybody knows what they're here for, and if I die, then congratulations. You solved the puzzle my deck was pulling out. And that's a good thing. That's to be commendable. That's fantastic. But there is a kind of player who, paradoxically, plays the decks of just highest strength possible in bracket 3, who then, for some reason, also gets upset when they get targeted, when their deck is designed to do its thing super powerfully when it is not targeted. I don't know how we solve that problem other than just having better conversations with each other. But what's funny is that I'm not pulling this out of my butthole. This is actually the first comment on here saying another thing that gets at passive another thing that gets at passivity and over defensiveness in Commander. Okay, so this is just English typed weird. Early on, if a player has a free attack and a few damage but is hesitating on targeting anybody because they don't want to make enemies, I just tell them to target me. That alone doesn't make an enemy of me. In fact, not attacking anyone is what makes an enemy out of me. I do feel like maybe some more elaborating on the over-defensive would have been cool here, because I want to see if there's more shared versions of this experience across the community. So I guess this is where I'm going to throw it to you. Have you dealt with this? Like any player at your local game store that spends more time trying to win, and it feels like every game is them trying to connive a way to win, either via small beaning, deflecting, or that over-defensiveness that effectively leads to emotional blackmail? Let me know in the comment section below. I want to hear your stories. And hey, maybe instead of me doing a Reddit response, we'll look through some of those stories in a follow-up video. And you know what? Because of that, as long as you're not saying names, as long as you're not outing, where you are, don't dox yourself, don't throw friends under the bus, But I do want to hear as many details as possible, because I think a lot of us have probably had this experience more often than not. And you know what would be even better? I would actually adore it if some of you have had the experience of being that person, of being the player who does this stuff, because then we get to hear your story of emotional growth. I want to hear how you went from being that person to becoming a better person. I want to know what behaviors your pod or what introspection that you dealt with that caused you to get out of those bad habits and become a more fun player to play with for everybody else around you. I know it's a bit of an ask, because that's a lot of vulnerability to give randomly to people on the internet, but I don't know. I think it'd be fun. I think it would be an interesting video to see what everybody's shared experiences are here. Just, again, please do me the favor. Do not dox yourself. Do not note locations, and do not note the names of players, because the last thing you want is for that player to show up in the comment section and there to be some unresolved conflict between the two of you that goes out as a result of that. That would not be great. I know the chances of that happening are very slim, but I'd rather look out for y'all than not. So, you know, OPSEC and all that good stuff. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. And of course, as with every one of these, this video is sponsored by Manapool. Please check out the link in the description. I just got a refresh on all of my stuff for that, which means that if you have not used Manapool before, you can get $5 off of whatever purchase you do on Manapool when you use that link if you have not used Manapool before. On top of that, well, I have one more thing to say. I've made the unfortunate mistake of making all fan art canon, and you guys use that to make a ton of doppelgangers of me that try to ruin my life. So why not go ahead and celebrate that cacophony by picking up the new channel playmat over on Fourth Wall. When you pick up the playmat, take a picture and throw it up on social media tagging me so I can feature you in a future video.